Okay, and we are live. So, this panel is I'm Hearing Voices. We are joined with some of our awesome narrators, as well as the authors that work with them. We're going to be discussing what it's like to work as a team, how you guys come up with the voices, the characters, accents, what parts you play together, and all of that. I am not your moderator, but I am. So, as you can maybe tell, I am not Adam, but for now I will be. Welcome, everybody.
No. If he shows up, it's too late. We've already
It's
subbed.
too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah, we
So
claimed
you're
you.
stuck with me.
We've
That's the point of
licked
no
Geneva and claimed her as our own.
I mean,
No backsies.
I
No
thought we
backsies.
weren't supposed to talk about that.
You know,
I can talk
when
about it all I want.
There was this one time. Oh, wait, no, that's not the story.
One time in
Dragon
Atlanta
Con.
where,
What happens
Yeah.
at Dragon Con stays at Dragon Con.
Right?
Amen.
If I could
unless you post
just
about it,
say-
in which case it's Open's game.
Yeah, the Carl, Dungeon Crawler Carl cosplay that I did, I have not had my boobs grabbed so many times by random people since college.
You were encouraging people to do so. You
I
asked
mean, I had
somebody-
nipple rings on.
If I had known, I would have been there.
See, missing out. This is what happens.
That's the
It
story
was-
of my life.
It was a truly terrifying costume. I'm not gonna lie, but I got my fake feet signed, so we're all good. All right. So, because these people are not doing their thing, I am gonna multitask here and let them know how to show their names. But while I do that, if you guys can, as the viewers, grant StreamYard permission, we can actually see who you are. And while we're doing that, oh, we've got hello from the future. What's it like
Australia.
out there? Yeah,
How far in the
Ah.
future?
A day.
so deadly. Yeah, deadly. That's what they're getting at.
Hello from the past.
I've lived there
It's
most
so much
of my
more
life.
intimidating. You're just a floating black and white head
Yeah.
or grayscale head.
But when will then be now?
Oh no, he gained color.
Soon.
There you go.
Soon.
All right. So before the questions come pouring in, hint, hint, audience, I am going to go ahead and start and say, for our narrators, what has been the most difficult request these lovely authors have put upon you?
We should also maybe introduce ourselves.
Oh, I guess I could do that. I make the others do that, don't I? See, this
Yeah,
is
they'll
why I
figure it
just
out.
go
Oh,
behind
Normcore
the
introducing
scenes.
ourselves, but yeah.
I know. We know who these people are. I mean, okay, let's start. Neil, you want to go ahead and start us off?
I'm Neil Helligers. That says it there. Here. I live in Brooklyn, New York City. I narrate a lot of books for this guy. Wait, there it is. There it is. I can't do this. I can't do it. I cannot Brady Bunch. I cannot. I don't have that skill set. But I'm happy to narrate 2 series for that guy over there, and a bunch of other things too.
I am Eric Hugland, and I write The Good Guys and the Bad Guys, which are both done by this guy. He's the narrator for me.
Oh, I'm supposed to introduce myself. I was so enthralled with you guys. It's just amazing.
We're clearly going clockwise.
Don't make me pay attention to things. It's very short-lived. Hi, I'm Andrea Parsnow. I think I say things for a living, possibly. And I've worked with both of these wonderful beings down here. Both the TJ and the Daniel. These ones. So, that's me. On multiple series. So it runs deep. Eternal Online and so many from Daniel.
I'm Daniel Shinofan. I'm known for writing many, many things, making Andrea say things that she wishes she never had to say to be recorded for all the time. And also using people with similar sounding names in the same book to drive her up a wall, like Ryan and Ryan. I'm just, just sad.
I'm not going to comment on Ryan and Ryan. We're not going to talk about Ryan and Ryan, who exist in the same world, in the same friend group, in the same series. That's not confusing at all.
That sounds just mean, but you know,
Yeah,
builds character.
that's hurtful. That's
Pun
hurtful.
intended.
I'm Steve Campbell, resident Canadian narrator guy, and I have done a series for the wonderful and amazing Rose TJ Reynolds here beside me. So yeah,
Rose TJ. This is Rose TJ here.
well,
No, it's fine.
it's
It's a good. We can stack it up. I go by Rose usually, but TJ Reynolds is my pen name. I've worked with Steve and Andrea, but Steve is the one that I'm paired up with because we did such an awesome job in the Guild Corps. So pretty excited about this panel.
I'm too. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. As I've said, I am not Adam. I am Geneva. You may have seen me killed off as an AI in various books. I also am the coffee shop owner in Tokens and Towers 2, Two Girls Mini Cups. Other than that, I'm helping organize Guildify Con. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I hope you guys have all been having a fun day so far. And we've got our first question here from Sharon. Is there ever a time when a scene is too funny and you have to stop? I'm going to go
from laughing.
I'm actually going to call Steve out on this one because I have witnessed this.
I don't know what you're talking about. I am very serious and take my work seriously and take what I do seriously and do not make any kind of humorous jokes or anecdotes at all at any time while I'm recording. So you might have to pass me on this one.
Yes, clearly. Andrea, how about you? See what happens? Yeah.
Wow, serious moderation happening here. God,
Fair.
cutthroat.
Hey, you guys asked for it, man.
Kapow.
It's okay, Steve. I'll let you go. It's okay.
Oh, wow.
No, the thing that is fun about it is I actually saw a little bit of the panel that you were on earlier, Rose, and you were talking about choosing me as a narrator because I was Canadian and so nice, and you love working with nice people. And Ryan De Bruin made a comment about like, what the hell? He's not nice to me at all. You have been lied to. And I wanted to kind of say that as a Canadian, Ryan is Canadian too. So when I tease everyone, only Ryan actually takes it personally because he's Canadian and knows how really mean we're being. Everyone else that's American, when we tease them, you guys are like, oh, you guys are so nice. And we're like, really? We're trying to be mean, like super mean. And you guys are like, oh, that's the sweetest thing ever. Oh, aren't you lovely? And I'm like, yeah, I meant that as a nice thing to say. Right. Okay.
I was also just trying to say that you were very professional and I like to work with you. I wasn't just being like, he's just nice.
He's Canadian and nice. So that's why I want. No, I did. But that was the thing that I wanted to mention about that, was because I thought it was funny that you had mentioned me being so nice and Canadian and stuff. But yeah, we have a great time in my Discord, and there are copious amounts of times that I have not been able to hold my shit together because I was laughing so incredibly hard. Onomatopoeias are sometimes the bane of my existence. Like when you have a very serious and dark moment and there's a harpy that's coming down to kill someone, and then all of a sudden it says caca, and you're like, how in the hell am I supposed to do that in a very scary way? You can't caca in a scary way. It doesn't happen. So when I tried and then had to listen to it, I burst out laughing every single time that pre-roll came up. I couldn't get my next line out to save my life.
Hey, Ryan. Ryan's here too.
I very much had something similar. Daniel is very frequently in the chat. Yes, you ogre. He's very frequently in the chat with us while I'm recording, and there will be lines. It's always something really, really innocuous. Like it's something in the book that wouldn't be that funny out of context. Like it's just something simple. And it'll be hilarious after I hear it on the pre-roll. Like I'll think about it for 2 seconds. The person is handing tea over right before the character goes into this giant vision, and after I say that, as soon as I say that, I'm like, wait a second, did she just give him mushrooms? Is that what just happened?
She
Is this
dosed
like a
him?
mind expanding thing?
How come
And
there's so many
after I
drugs
have
in your
that-
book, Daniel?
After that happens, the trip happens where I think about that for a second. then I'm gone. I just start laughing for the next 5 minutes every time I read up to that because I'm like, but what kind is it? Are we talking peyote or ayahuasca here? Like, what are we going? So usually my crack ups where I have to stop or my own doing that is spurred by the wonderful writing that I'm reading.
Well, I'd like to point out that one of the bloopers the fans love for you the most, because you do put some of them at the end of the books, has to deal with eggs.
Oh yeah. Because there was a character that did something so tone deaf. Like the girl had walked in and he's like, what did she say? What did he say to her? Because it was like harsh.
Surprised you're awake.
Yeah, it was surprised you're awake. And she's like, you dick, I'm awake every day at 4 a.m. How dare you question me? And I went off. She does not say any of that in the book. She's like, thank you, Gregory. She like walks off. But I'm like, and that I started riffing as the character, and she was threatening to shit in his eggs. How dare she question his or her work ethic and such and such. It got ridiculous. So that's usually the downfall.
It was like a 2-minute outtake that you riffed on, which my fans, by the way, love as a blooper. So,
Bill, how about you?
Well, it kind of ties a little into the question we asked before we took a Facebook question, and this kind of like but it's the same idea about this sort of loop effect feedback thing that if you've read or listened to Good Guys Bad Guys, Eric Siemens has a penchant for you know, I don't know if they're real. I think they usually are. Whenever I ask Eric, like, how do you say this word? He always has a very specific. So it was either he's making up when I asked him, how do you pronounce this word, or it comes from somewhere. There is a creature called the Rolgur Daudai. And that is this big, massive creature. Very sweet, though. Very kind, actually, as it turns out. And so I got the word. I see it. I'm like, okay, so how do you pronounce it in an email? And he said, he spells it out. I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. Every time I say it, I'm not going to, no matter who's saying it, no matter what situation it is, I'm going to say Rolgur Daudai. And so every time I did it to myself, same situation. Every time in the middle of action, there's a flowing thing happens, people are attacking, and then the Rolgur Daud, and I have to stop because I did it because I fucked myself up every single time, you know. And that's different from like other things that Eric throws me in terms of like legitimately like the password to get in something is just straight up the Six Chic tongue twister. Just and we didn't know, that was like that was very early on too. So like we barely knew each other at that point, working wise. So it's like it's basically it's like what I embrace the absurdity, but only by making the absurdity as serious as possible do I mess myself up. So, but all in good fun. Oh yeah, I see just someone put up the Lovecraftian. We're not going to fall for that and accidentally evoke the end of the world here. So nice try, Jay.
All right, this next one are their characters whose voices are harder to keep true to where you started. So I want to start differently and ask the authors, was there a character that you wrote with a specific voice, and then how that went discussing it with the narrators? Were they able to keep it how you wanted? And narrators, was that difficult on you? And I am going to start this time. We're going to pick
We didn't hear what you picked.
Oh, Eric? Can you hear me? No?
Yeah, we got that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, writing wise, no, but I guess that's more of a Neil question. I think that I don't think I've lost any track of voices that I'm writing.
Specific voice in mind and relay that to him. Get a particular accent that was difficult, or you know, something you wanted to come across in the actual vocalization.
Yeah, I mean, I see this Facebook comment where it says, yeah, you know, he said in a massive booming voice that hits like a gravel landslide. You know, that's certainly something that I've done. I will leave some hints as to what I'm imagining there, but I tend to follow Neil's lead a lot in terms of what he thinks a character should sound like.
We had that whole conversation about Wild Wild Quest in terms of all the different characters there. About it's a vaguely Western environment. You know, it's
Right.
not like it's not the American West, but it has that feel to it. And about how we went through a lot of different characters and like, we don't want them all to sound like, what y'all doing here? It's a little too derivative, a little too on the nose, but that if we can throw in a mix and combination, keep it sort of global in a way too, and bizarre and weird. And but then that was a discussion about how the American West wasn't homogenous in terms of the accents. It was, or in terms of that there were people from all over the world there as well too. So,
right. Yeah. And I think that we tend to, I tend to follow his lead, and we have a discussion, and then it sort of sticks from there. But I don't think that there's ever been a moment where I have said, "Oh, that's not what I thought he sounded like, or she sounded like." Most of the time, it's really just, that's what it sounds like.
Just not the name of the world.
Yeah, but I came around.
Good.
How about for Dan and Andrea?
I probably do have some voice narrating, that he said in a surprisingly high pitched tone, but how that comes across, I leave 100% to Andy. I've told her a dozen times or more easily. She has complete control over what any character sounds like. It's just easier for her to do her job. And at the end of the day, if I can keep her happy, I can keep having her do my books, which then makes everyone happy. So I've never come back to where I've been like, this accent is wrong. It's just been like, oh, different choice. I didn't hear it that way before you did it. However, after she's done with it, I've been like, and now I can't hear them any other way. That is now canon voice.
And I will always, to be fair, always offer to do what the thing was that he wanted me to do in his head. Like, he won't tell me. So so it's afterward. He's like, I didn't hear him that way originally, but I like it now. So I'm like, well, did you want me to try it the other way though? Because I could try it the other way. We could see how that sounds. And he's like, nope, now they're that way. That's it. So it's a cool collaborative relationship. I like it.
Ryan Watercolor. I didn't hear Jamaican for him originally, but that it was just like, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. It works.
All right. How about for Rose and Steve?
Yeah. I kind of tried to do the same thing with Steve. Steve, you're very hands-on. So we ended up, I think we jammed over the phone a couple times. That was like some good bonding there. I think Bancroft was the one that we worked the most on because it was the most important to me. Ban was like the name of my dungeon core, and it was based on my grandma, like my 80-year-old British grandma, who taught me like lovely bunch of coconuts and all these like little Britishisms that were cute as fuck. And so those made their way into the book via fantasy version. And honestly, Steve nailed that one really good. Bancroft for life, fuck yeah. The Hintari, I suck. I forget the names of my own characters all the time. But the old wizard, the Hintari dude that becomes the monk, the sage, right?
Yeah.
You got your ass kicked by that accent for a while, and that was all you're doing. You're like, I'm gonna go Spanish, I'm gonna go this, I'm gonna go that, and you were very frustrated.
Okay, now to be fair, maybe we remember this a little bit differently. I was trying to look it up. Because I was like, we did talk a lot about this stuff, and I happened to find the narration notes on this where you went through everything and were like very detailed on exactly how everyone should sound. And it was Jacody was the wise old wizard I have here, and he was half Hintari and half Brintosh. And you had said that the Brintoshi were kind of like European British Isles, kind of all that kind of stuff. And then the Hintar, you wanted them to kind of speak with an Arabic / Kurdish accent. And then you even mentioned the fact that you're like, I can't find any reference to Kurdish accents or the Kurdish language anywhere online, but I was there during the military and I thought it was really cool. So if you could do that, that would be great. And I'm like, oh, what the, do a language that I have no idea of? Sure. Yeah, I can make that happen. So yeah, I struggled a little bit with Jacody there, but Bancroft was amazing because you had written that character so incredibly well that that was one of those voices that immediately in an earlier narrator panel, they're asking about character voices and which ones are harder and easier. And that yours always comes to mind because Bancroft was written so exactly distinct that I had no problems knowing exactly how that character would sound. And it was very fun to get into that voice and into that character. And I just loved it. So, but yeah, when you were talking about these, and then you said the Catalians, I think, or something, where you're like, yeah, they're Spanish, but that's fine. Spanish is easy. So there's no problem there. And I'm like, oh, Spanish is easy. Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I just whip these things out. Like, no problem. Yeah. It's fine to get all those accents in there.
So that plays in nicely to this question here. How hard is it to swap between character voices and accents? Do you just swap on the fly or record each voice separate and piece them together? Why don't we start with you, Steve?
It depends on the accent and it depends on the voice as to what you're swapping to and how hard it is to swap back and forth. There are some accents that you wouldn't think are super hard to switch between, and they are incredibly hard to switch between. Russian and Scottish is really surprisingly difficult to code switch between for some reason. And then if you're trying to do like a Northern English and a Scottish accent, or you're trying to flip between Irish and Scottish, or like all of that kind of stuff, it starts to bleed into each other, and you really have to fight to keep them distinct and separate when you're doing scenes. Like I had a scene where 5 different people were all talking amongst each other, and they were all from the different areas of the UK. And I think that one I had to actually stop. I couldn't just record straight through. I had to go and record every person's line in that scene, set it aside, and then record every other person's line in that scene, set it aside, and then copy and paste them all back together and hope, and then listen and go, okay, it sounds like they actually are talking to each other and not just like I did a copy and paste. But it was, yeah, those can get challenging when you have very difficult accents or characters that really fight. But normally, yeah, you try and just switch on the fly.
How about for you, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what I try to do sometimes, at least initially when I'm prepping the book, is when I come across a scene with a few different voices, and if I haven't chosen voices for them yet, is to try to set it up so I make it a little easier for myself by giving more contrast between them, if there is the freedom to do so. In both Good Guys and Bad Guys, Eric has a lot of running sections that are just dialogue, which I love because it is really just the pure conversation between these two people. There's no attributions, there's no other narration happening. It's just the core of their conversation. And I think it's whatever the stopping and starting that needs to happen, that we of course do all the time, or wanting to go back and tinker with something, or to try to drop something in that works a little bit better. If you have that sort of itch in the back of your head, like, oh, there was something wrong back there, I think I need to go back, and inevitably there always is. Generally part of the skill set is to be able to swap on the fly, just because for practical reasons, but also it takes a lot more time to have to do all that kind of thing. But also for me, at least, getting into if you're acting both parts and you're working two people's objectives or conflicts against each other, that has to happen, or that happens better on the fly, even if it's honestly, like, even if it's not like the neatest thing in the world. I would rather have that emotional impact and a little bit of roughness to it, then as long as everything is still identifiable, as long as it's clear to the listener who is talking, what's going on, what everyone wants, what the scene is about, how it's telling the story, then I try to keep it on the fly. And if I fuck up, I'll go back and of course I'll do. I'm not going to leave any mistakes, or I'll trust that the proofer will catch it for me. But I try to stay in that spot where it's on the fly, because I think that's where the better work generally comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, how about for you?
Similar to Neil, like the worst is when you get a pickup in one of those, like this super intense scene where it went really smooth with this intense back and forth between characters, and you'll get a pickup for a line right in the middle of it.
I think we lost Andrea.
Which is a correction, and you have to now mimic.
Hold on, Andy.
You get me now.
You are very choppy, Andy.
And we're gonna have to take that again one more time. Can you pick it up from
Wild and when I come back?
Narrator here.
You're back.
I think you're back now.
I'm back. Okay,
yeah.
That was funny because that was what I was talking about, was pickups. Anyway, yeah. No. Anyway, so as far as I'm trying to remember where I was going with that original thought. I don't think it matters. Yep, doesn't matter. Can you ask me the original question, Geneva? Because I went off on my own tangent and then I got disconnected and it totally screwed me up.
It was about switching between accents and various characters, the difficulty with that.
That's what it was. Thank you. ADD brain. Okay, so I will try to do them. I'm like Neil. I'll try to do them one by one, you know, back if I can. I'm so dadgum anal attentive, though. I'll usually go back and fix something else. Like I'll find something I said wrong or I misspoke or something like that. So I usually have something to correct anyway. So I end up doing individual takes. But ideally, if I can get them in a running stream where I'm just flipping back and forth between them, then that's great. But it's like Steve said, if you have two accents that have some sort of similarity between them, like a Scottish and a Russian or something like that, where even though it may not be the most accurate thing in the world, those R's are similar to my ear, to my interpretation of that dialect, that I'll get stuck. So they start bleeding together. So that may take having to cut between them and stuff. But I try to do it in a line though, similar to Neil.
So from Facebook user, we have, do the authors ever get annoyed by the pronunciation of some of the words their narrator says? And Andrea, we'll go ahead and start back with you.
I am not sure. Daniel's been really, really good about if he has a specific like pronunciation or something like that, then he'll let me know what he'd like there. The only one that I can remember that sticks out as far as pronunciation goes is a specific town in Nevada that I did not know had a weird pronunciation to it. And it was said quite a few times in Apocalypse Gates. It is pronounced
Beatty, as in Warren Beatty.
Ely.
Ely, Nevada.
Wasn't it
Okay.
Ely?
Well,
Ely.
there was that in Beatty, yeah.
And Beatty. There's two, actually. You're right. The same book, too. It was Ely and Beatty. I said them Beatty and Eli for the entire book. Did not know. Actual places. By the way, that's just a rule with being a narrator. You're supposed to look those things up. But
it actually is. It is Beatty, as in Warren Beatty is the name of the town. You kept saying Beatty the entire time, and it was like, Andy, it's only mentioned like 60 odd times. I'm sure it'll be fine for a pickup. So
yeah, it was bad. Whatever it was, whatever the pronunciation was, I said it the wrong way. So and that was early on, and I had not learned the.
Well, but I wasn't annoyed at the pronunciation. We just wanted to get it right, so we didn't get lambasted with how the hell can you not know how to pronounce something.
Yeah, original stuff. He always lets me know what he wants it to be. So.
or I just go, yeah, it sounded fine the way you took it the first time. Go ahead and use that.
Eric, how about for you?
I think that I torment Neil quite a bit, and
but I feel the love though.
Sometimes I spend a long time trying to figure out the most difficult way to spell something. I think that's why I started trying to learn Welsh.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything that he has. Yeah, the name of the world. That was the one thing that.
And it never occurred to me to ask, and so because I usually do. Like when you asked that, I looked up. You can't really see it here, but I found like a list of in like the prep email. I have whatever terms I flag for, like, what is this one, like Lunchogians, and I gave what as my guess, the Lunchogians, and he comes back with I said Lunchogians, and he said Lunchogians with a hard G, like karate clothing, like a gi, you know.
Yeah.
Or huge no few. I asked him, is it jug no few? And he says no, huge no few. It's like that. And we go back and forth like that. But it's a list of nonsense words. Yes, it's true. That is true. Yeah.
90% nonsense words.
Yeah.
Rose, how about for you and Steve?
Yeah, I have pretty crappy memory, but I do know that for sure there's always a couple things per book. I always give the book a listen, and it's always like, okay, that was jarring. But then like 5 minutes later, it becomes headcanon. It sinks in, and that's, I think, appropriate. I'm going to out Daniel Wisniewski for First Fist. It was Balaam. It was Ballum. Balaam Mountains and the god Balaam. And the word Balaam was all over the fucking book. And he pronounced it Balaam. And I'm like, I get Gollum and I get balls. And I'm like, I don't want either one of those associations at all. But you could, he's like, it's in there 180 times and I'm not going to change it. And I'm like, got it. It's Balaam now. Okay. What do you think, Steve? Do you remember anything that stuck out or?
You know, it was actually, this is one of the things where it's really great when you have a collaborative effort between your author and your narrator, because you gave me such a great, as I pulled up that thing there, just a great spreadsheet of all of the different characters, where they're from, what you were thinking with them. And then usually I try during prep or even especially times, which is amazing when you have the author kind of hanging out in your Discord, to be like, how do you want this pronounced? How is this pronounced? So that we know what is going to be, how it's going to be done. And you were great about making sure that I knew what we were handling right from the start. And most of the stuff that you had named wasn't difficult names that made no sense whatsoever. So I was really grateful for that. Oftentimes what I end up having problems with is Canadian, because my Canadian slips in where I'm not meaning it to. And I keep learning about words that I thought I knew. I thought I knew how to say that word, but apparently, according to our friends down south, I don't know at all. And so, yeah, I had another Canadian narrator say, "Hey, I really want to use a Canadian proofer. Who would you recommend?" And I was like, "I have no idea who you should use. And honestly, even if I did know who they were, I wouldn't use them at all." Well, why not? Well, because then we both have a greater chance of making the mistake. I need an American proofer to catch all my Canadian stuff, because I had one book that I had done early on that was proofed by someone from the UK, and they didn't pick up on the fact that I said daggers instead of daggers. And yeah, that really caught in the craw of like 2 reviewers that ranted and raved about how horrible it was that I said daggers instead of daggers. And really, really, really got after me in that review. And I was like, okay, so now I know that daggers needs to be daggers and not daggers.
Can we start using daggers though? I think that's a lot better.
Daggers.
I'm going to start using
dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming next book.
So this one kind of ties in nicely here too from Scott. What is the one voice that every time it comes up, you look back at your past self and just go, God damn it, but wouldn't change it because that is the character in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Neil.
There are a few monster voices. They don't talk a lot because they're monsters. What's the name of it's the character. I think I believe the reference was the character. Is it Odo from Labyrinth? The Sarah friend, that guy, the big guy, he calls the rocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that you put in there, and it's like you can do it every so often, but not that he has. I'm waiting for the spinoff of just that first person narration from that character to happen. I'm sure you're working on it, Eric. Yeah, soon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the abusive ones that end up being problematic later on. I mean, sometimes also it's the kind of like I was saying before about how it's nice to be able to set up to differentiate between different characters when you're introducing them, but then as time goes on and everyone meets each other, eventually those 2 characters end up a room together, and you're like, oh fuck. All right, well, I guess I'll do it with emotional intent, and they'll just sound the same, and I'll lead into the, he said, in order to keep that kind of clear at the same time. But yeah, it's those ones that the monster voices, which are also great fun too, and that's why I tend to choose those voices. And when it calls for it, I mean, what other kind of voice would you give a massive monster that is kind of like a cross between like a dinosaur and Clifford? Like that's what they sound like. It's obvious that's what they would sound like. There's no other actual choice for that character voice. Just don't want to have them do like I'm not even going to say. Damn it! Exactly what I was going to say.
Now is the winter,
glorious summer.
How about for you, Andrea?
I'm trying to think of a time that Daniel's made a character that I gave a voice. You're in the chat a lot, Daniel. Have I hit one with your books? I'm trying to think because I have them from like other series, but I'm trying to think from one of yours.
Not from my point of view. I have heard you regret some character voices in other books.
Yeah,
but I don't think you've ever been like, I totally shouldn't have used this voice for Daniel's book.
No, I think it's because all of your characters stick around for so long. Yeah, Daniel's writing, he doesn't do any characters that go away. So it's everybody pretty much sticks around unless they're like Town Guard 75. Like that's the only people that usually won't come back. And even they come back sometimes. You keep everyone. You keep all the voices, every voice. So
hey, I'm just trying to make sure you stay on your toes. It's fine.
You keep every voice. That flower girl that Gregory ran into in book 1. Hey, guess what? She's a main character in book 3. So, or book 2. So, I don't know. It's a. I don't think there's one that Daniel's done that I've regretted. It's always the big voices. For me, it's like it's the big dude voice that'll get me. You know, Floss from The Wandering Inn type thing, where it's just. Everything is some big presentation. And the guy delivers friggin' monologue soliloquies in that voice. And he sounds like that. That is him. He will never be anybody else. Like that is what he sounds like. But it is incredibly hard to hold for 11 hours when he becomes a main character in the series, you know? So that it's usually that. But specifically, I don't do it with Daniel's books because I know they're coming back.
I have to ask though, have you ever thought about going back and doing Floss, but like reversing it and giving him like the most squeaky, high-pitched voice?
No, I have that in the Frost Fairies. The Frost Fairies are tough in their own right.
Yeah, no, just flip those two though. So the Frost Fairies become Floss and Floss becomes them.
There's a side story for you. So yeah, not with Daniel, but definitely I've had it. And it's usually the monsters or the big dude voices. Yep.
All right. How about for you, Steve?
I'm still trying to get over how incredible Andrea is at doing that incredible voice. My word. I don't think I could do that. And yeah, like, wow. What were we doing? What was the question again? I'm
regrets.
Flummoxed.
Voices you regret.
A voice that you regret doing, but now you can't hear it any other way.
Definitely not in the Guildcore. I really liked all of the characters, and I felt like we really had hit everyone very, very well. I even have there are fans in our Discord, grown-ass men who are very attracted to Rona. And I find that kind of odd as a male narrator to be like, when I start doing a voice and they have they don't really have anything but my voice to kind of go off of. And they're like, oh my word, she is so hot. That girl. Oh man, I just love her so much. She's awesome. And I'm like, thank you.
To be fair, she's a kind of like step on you kind of girl. So
she's a badass. Like, no question. She is awesome. And one of my favorite to do. I did have a struggle with her though, because there was at one point where she sings and I was like, what in the hell am I supposed to do with this? Because I had to make up the frickin' tune first off, and I am not a musician. And then I had to try and sing. And it says in the narrative afterwards, these people, all the people around the campfire were just overwhelmed with emotion, tears streaming down their face, hardened warriors who have tears at the beauty of her voice, the angel that just sang this incredible. And I'm like, that ain't happening. That's just, you're not going to get that from me. So yeah, we're going to use that suspension of disbelief on that part there. So I'll sing in Bancroft's voice. You bet. We'll try that out. But when you whipped out the whole, Rona's going to sing a nice, beautiful soliloquy, I was like, yeah. So according to James Hunter, I have it in writing that I have the voice of an angel. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Mango fruit.
Mango fruit. Mango fruit. How did the rest of it go?
Yeah.
I can't remember I should have looked it up.
It was just a penis pun. It's like a sex joke, as all good poems and fantasy books should be.
Yeah. Well, because you had said that was this tune that was based basically off of, because we couldn't use all the lovely bunch of coconuts, dilly dee, and you wanted something that was like that, but of course we had to do something different, and so I had to try and come up with some sort of tune that would work with what you had written out there. And because you were no help at all. I was like, how do you want that? And you're like, just whatever you want to do, that's fine. Just do it. And I'm like, great, thanks. I asked for a suggestion. You're like, yeah, do whatever feels good for you. I'm like, no, I really would like, no, go ahead. You just have your creative freedom there. And I'm like, awesome.
Let me say this too, for advice for people. I gave Steve my phone number. I got a lot of text messages and phone calls.
You did.
But it was fine. It's fine. The mango fruit.
You open that door.
You
open that door, and I'll ask. I'll be like, hey, what do you want here? What are you doing with this?
Are you saying if I give Steve my number, I'll just start getting random texts and phone calls?
Absolutely.
100%.
Steve, we'll talk later.
It's the late night pictures you really have to look at.
Those are what I'm hoping for.
Not everybody knows about those.
Oh.
So those are only for my special people that I send out to.
Mango.
So we've got one from Sharon here. What do you do when the I can't be a narrator. I had too many cuts. When the book is larger than originally contracted. So let's start with first asking the authors, do you pick and talk to a narrator before your book is finished? I'm gonna start with Rose.
Yeah, I fucked up on that one, didn't I, Steve? I was like, Guildcore is going to be like 100 to 120K, and then I like submitted 160 or something, or I don't know what it was. It was significantly longer, and Steve reprimanded me as in a very kind Canadian way, but I was like, yeah, I fucked up, sorry. But it threw things off a little bit, but at the same time, like the story needed to be that length, so ultimately there's no regrets. I just sort of stepped on your toes, schedule-wise.
How about Daniel?
Well, first of all, I'm just trying to imagine the Canadian chewing somebody out, like, hey, you hoser, that was 50% longer than it was supposed to be. I mean, I'm still just trying to picture it in my head. No, all my books are finished and written and edited and everything else before I even throw a contract up for that one, because I want to make sure that I know what it is before I hand it off to someone. I specifically don't want that issue where, oh, it's totally going to be 120K. So did you know AR3 actually ran like 183? I'm sorry I gave you 50% more work. And that might push back your schedule for the next 2 books. So I don't put the contract up for my narrators until such time that I have it completed and ready to hand off to various distributors. So I never have that issue. As for the narrators, though, my narrators go, Andy, will you do it? And if she says, I'm totally booked and I can't, which she has told me that before and made me cry in my pillow for a couple of days while I then try to figure out who else I'm going to get to do my books. And then it's a fun thing I found where you have to then shop narrators to find one that you think can do it. So, but I've never been like, I'm sorry I gave you way more work than I thought originally.
I am a filthy casual, and I just give stuff to Tantor, and they give it to Neil, and then I collect the checks. That's it.
All right. How about
I do want to mention about this. This is not in relation to Eric's books, but it is. I mean, there was a comment about how we all started nodding because this has happened. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say the book, but like, I'm right in the middle of this right now. Actually, it was like came in about, probably will be about 7 hours longer than I was initially told, and it happens here and there. And I think it's interesting. Like, I think this is something I've been finding happening in Gamelit more than in other books. And I'm not blaming Royal Road, but I just did. It's not a fault of it. It's just that the pattern, the style of writing that serialization, I think sometimes lends to, and wanting to finish the arc. Like, I get it. Like, I would never say it shouldn't have that extra 7 hours to it. But it does create this problem where I'm like, well, they're like, yes, well, we're sorry that it's longer. We have the open conversation about it. And I just, it has to get done, and it does butt against the rest of my schedule, which I probably keep absurdly tight anyway. But I found that the best answer is just to read it incredibly fast, and that just solves it right there. Then I can cut that 7 hours down to 3. I mean, I'm just saving the listener the trouble of having to adjust it to 1.5 or 2.5 anyway.
Exactly.
Except I get in the habit of that, and then this for Eric, and then for like Mike Chatfield, they're like, your books are too short, and they're like, no, you can just blame me. It's my fault. I read too goddamn fast. That's I guess got stuck. My life is at 1.5 or 2.0.
That's because you live in New York.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't exist here, speaking at a normal, say, kind Canadian pace.
Yeah, it's true.
Canadians tend to talk really fast because we're so upset about taking up too much time. So we really kind of tend to ramble. We're like, we're really sorry. I'm really sorry for what we're doing. But can I just say this one thing really quick? And then maybe we'll be done. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye. Sorry.
I appreciate you adjusted that the sorry, that was very, very like Midwest sounding to me,
That was how the reprimand went, by the way. There was like 3 or 4 apologies.
He was apologizing for reprimanding while in the midst of reprimanding. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
all right.
you gotta
authors, I've got one for you. What is your favorite accent that your narrators have done for you? And we will start with Eric.
My favorite accent he has done. Probably Bronx. I have a soft spot for the Bronx, New York in general.
I love those scenes.
Yeah.
Neil, can we get a demonstration?
He's the god of war, right?
Adventure.
Adventure, yeah, right. And it's a scene that's happening in his memory. It's like in a dream space, and he's in a pizza shop in the Bronx. And so the god takes on the avatar of just this guy, and he's having this conversation over like a Sprite or something. And it's one of those scenes, like I said before, like it's mostly dialogue back and forth, and it's like, and they're sort of heartrending because the god is kind of coming clean to Clyde about how lonely he is, kind of, and how adrift he is at the same time too. So it's a very real scene, and putting on that accent, it's like I don't live in the Bronx. But I know that pizza shop. I can see it. Like we have the equivalent like down the block from here, so that environment is very clear, and that's somehow that sort of defines the character. He's got a baseball cap on. He's just I don't have to do much with it. He's just kind of there, and he's just a guy. Like there's nothing special about it. There's nothing fancy about it. But it just those there's been 2 of them, and hopefully there won't be any more. Of those scenes coming up, but they're like an absolute, like they're the scene that I do. I'm like, oh, maybe I want to do that again, not because I thought what I did was off or anything, just because I just want to live in that scene for as long as possible. And also now I'm hungry for pizza. So yeah.
Me too.
Daniel, how about you? Do you have a favorite one that Andrea does?
It's like picking a favorite child, isn't it? I mean, This is the funny one. This is the smart one. This is the perfect one, which is me. If you talk to my parents, well, not if you ask my parents. Just ask me. I'll tell you I'm my parents' favorite child, not my sister's. But no, I don't normally say that that's my favorite voice out of Andy, because she does so many great voices. I mean, at that point, I have to start breaking it down. Like, this is the best like sexy female voice. This is the best funny sidekick voice. Out of all of them, though, I let Andy name a character in Luck's voice, because I liked writing him so much, and I wanted her to own just a little bit of him to maybe inspire her a little bit more. So we have Sigmund the Hatter in Luck's voice, which is amazing because he's also, he's a hatter. He's going insane from mercury poisoning. So it's a fun one.
Andrea, could you give us an example of Sigmund?
Hats! Everything Sigmund says is super excited about hats! Hats! I tell you, hats!
Like that, Sigmund's super psyched about hats all the time.
Good hats, short hats, small hats, good hats, good hat. Hat loves you.
It's close to Sigmund.
The chat is going nuts with hats right now.
All right, Rose, how about you? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, of course. First off, that was awesome, Andrea. I love you. But yeah, I think we still have to go with Bancroft. I mentioned my grandma, and y'all probably can't get her, but she used to do shit like, beastly boys and ghastly girls. She was always a little bit ostracized with American culture and very disappointed in everyone. And then I combined that with C-3PO's anxiety, and Bancroft was born.
Steve, you want to give us a little sample?
I can try. It's I mean, the funny thing is that it was so hard because Bancroft was so distinct in the writing that when I try and just do it without actually reading it, it's not quite the same. But he was always giving Kai a hard time. And so we're like, "Oh, Kai, I really don't understand what's going on, but I think that it would be really good if you could try a little bit better. Like, you're kind of weenie a little bit. And so if maybe perhaps what you could do is maybe try to hit the rat a little bit harder. I think that might work better for you. I would be very much appreciative if that was the way it would go. Thank you so much." So it's funny that you mentioned the C-3PO thing, because we had a book. We put the Guild Corps on a book tour, and one of the actual, like, the reviewers, like, that's what they do, is review. Apparently they were behind in their schedule. So in the review, they said, yeah, there was a lot of the story that just didn't make sense to me. And it felt like it was missing a whole bunch of parts, and I couldn't really follow it very easily. And I thought Bancroft was really fun, but I don't know why he had to sound exactly like C-3PO. And I mean, Bancroft is similar to C-3PO in a way, but not quite that far. And then, and a side note, the reviewer put, "But I did listen to this at 3 times the speed, so maybe that had something to do with it." And it's like, oh, do you think that maybe that might have had something to do with the fact that it sounded like it was really, really fast and frantic, and why you missed a whole bunch of the story and it didn't make sense because you lose focus for 3 seconds and all of a sudden 5 pages have gone by and you're like, they didn't address that. Yes, we did. Well, why didn't this happen? It did. You just missed it. So yeah, good on you for that review.
All right, we've got time for one more. We've got from Yoshi. I don't know if this has already been asked, but if you all had to do a book the size of Wandering Inn, would you accept it? And how long do you think it would take you to do it? Well, let's go ahead and start with Neil for this one.
I would accept it. Yeah. This hasn't been set yet. So, I'm pretty sure sometime next year, there's a book from an author that is known to this group. His name rhymes with Pez Waggio. That I think is, and this is all hypothetical. I know nothing. That I think is basically like my November. I feel like that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, it's like on a work level, it's like to be able to be that immersed and to be able to kind of to take that time to do it. It's no different work wise if I was doing 4 books, 1 a week, doing that whole one together. And I love this series hypothetically that I'm working on that rhymes with the Brides of Fan Mind. I'm as we have to like lock it down, but I would. And along the same lines for, like if Eric wanted to write like a book that I could read for all of December, that'd be cool.
Same. I actually think they were talking about all of the Wandering Inn.
Oh,
not like book 1 of the Wandering Inn, but like the entire thing.
I saw some chart that someone put up recently, but isn't it like, yeah, haven't you really only done the tip of the iceberg of that? Yeah.
Well, and from what I've heard on this Pez Waggio fella, he's got a lot of things in the work for next year too.
Yeah.
Andrea, so you've got some personal experience.
Nah, I wouldn't. I don't think it's good. Nah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
10
like
out of 10 do not recommend. No, I'm kidding.
Hell's no.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's a big commitment. Like I have to space it out. It has to be scheduled I have it scheduled years in advance. Like it's literally, I have it booked out where it's certain months are the Wandering Inn, essentially, because it's so long and there's so much of it and there's so much to get through that it just kind of has to be regulated. At first, it was kind of, we're going to get as many in as we can, but it just really regulated out to 3 per year because there's post-production that comes afterward and everybody's going to take time with it. So yeah, it's a long commitment, but it's like Neil said, it's really no different than like just booking 3 books for that month or whatever the case may be, or 2 books. It's I work the same amount of time either way. So whatever I'm working on, I'm happy to be working on. That's basically it. I'm in the booth either way.
How about for you, Steve?
It would have to be kind of a case-by-case basis because I was actually offered one of those web serials, but I turned it down because it was, I think at that point, it was at 15 million words, and they wanted the first book to be over 900,000 words, and they wanted to do it as a royalty share. And I was just like, I can't, like that. The amount, one, I don't know how that would fit into my schedule for that book one alone. And then to do that book, then to wait for post-production to complete all of its part, then for it to go, when it goes into the royalty share that they're talking about, it's you get paid quarterly. So you have to wait the 3 months that it would be for sale, then the 3 months that it takes for them to lag it behind, and then you're getting paid. So it would be like, I think 900,000 words would easily put me at like 4 months of work, if not more. And then not getting paid for that for about a year and a half would not really work for me. So I said, no, thank you. But not to say that I wouldn't do something like that, but it would have to be structured a little bit better. And it would have to be something that I was kind of interested and excited about, because that's a massive commitment. And I know, Andrea, when you were asked to do The Wandering Inn, you had already approached the author beforehand saying you wanted to do it because you love the series so much. If you're doing something that big, you have to love it, because it's a massive commitment.
Yeah, and there's something that when you're offered a big job like that, that's especially royalty share, that a lot of people don't know about, because a lot of that would be because this is a lucrative genre in the sense that like the genre is a good seller. There's people in it. People enjoy it. We love it. It's a popular genre and it does very well for audio. So royalty share does have prospect and it does have its place in this genre. But what I don't think a lot of people know is the thousands of dollars that gets put out in post-production on our side. When you're doing royalty share, if you don't have any sort of agreement on the side of that, if you're doing a 900,000 word book, you could be looking at, $7,000 in post-production costs. Like that, it could be obscene. So it is a cost on our side too. So there's that risk as well that you'd have to float. So it's a big commitment either way. But yeah, I reached out to Pirate.
So we are out of time, but I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And I want to just give you guys each a real quick second here to say any new thing you have coming out or what you're currently working on. We're going to start with Rose. Surprise. You got to unmute yourself.
You have to unmute.
I'm working on First Fest 2 at the moment. That should be coming out next year. I've got another series that I'm kind of like keeping the title under wraps. Hopefully going to start that. And I might be finishing up Towers of Akalia very soon. Yeah. And also it was a pleasure getting to hang with all y'all.
Steve, how about for you?
I'm working on, I mentioned this morning, but I'm working on a series, book 2 in a series for Ryan de Bruin, System Misinterpret. I love it so much. It's such a fun series to do. I was so glad to get back into it. Having to do a lot of Hobgoblin voices, which is always interesting. And then coming out right away, I have a book 1 for Jacob Tanner, Second Chance Swordsman, that should be out this weekend, if not Monday. And then also the whole series is out and available, but the box set for the Bright Lord series is going to be coming out here in the next week or two. And I'm very excited for people to give that a try because it's an awesome, awesome series.
Daniel?
New is still a while out for me. I'm still writing my four series rotation that I've done my best to not add more books to that rotation, so I could try to possibly get out 2 books a year in each series. I do have Dungeon Walkers, which is going to be ending after the next book, so I do have a new series starting early next year, which is Antecedents Legacy, which is a sci-fi fantasy series that a very talented female narrator who will not be named said she would possibly pick up and do. For audio on my side, though, I might know somebody who has a lot of things coming up that I'm very interested in, but I'll hand it off to her.
Andrea?
I forgot I was on mute. Let's see. Currently, I am working on Tower of Somnus, and it's the third book in the series. It's a super fun series. But next week, I actually get started on Binding Words 8 by none other than the Daniel Shinhofen. So if you want to listen to another amazing work by Daniel, I will be on my Discord streaming starting Tuesday on that. It is discord.gg/Andrea Parsnow. Yay for custom links. So that's my new plan. That's my plan for coming up. And then it's Daniel through to the end of the year, because I'm going to get asked about that later. It's just all Daniel through the end of the year. So if you're waiting for a Daniel book, it's coming out. It's sometime at the end of the year.
How about for you, Eric?
I think there's an audio book with Neil coming out in November. Otherwise, I'm basically on NDAs, the stuff I can't talk about. And then, next year stuff.
Next year. Neil, how about for you?
I just finished a third book of a series from Troy Osgood called Fireteam Battlegrounds Online, which I love because it's not it's RPG, it's game lit, but it's not based in fantasy or sci-fi. It's first person shooter based game, which is kind of what was sort of like my first gaming love was FPS, GoldenEye back in the day and such. And let's see what else. I'm narrating what would be for me the last book of Mike Chatfield's Fifth Realm 2 million word series. Fifth Realm that I'm recording, which I'll do on his server, on his Discord server at the end of this month as well too. And then like assorted other things throughout the rest of the year. Civ CEO 7, Frostworld 3, which is a fun series as well too. And I just got pickups today for that very same Flicks in the City title of Eric's for me to do for that November release, which we're excited about.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, again. I had a wonderful time with you. Again, my name is Adam. No, my name is Geneva. Adam was not here. Yeah, Adam
hardly knew him.
Poor guy. I mean, I think actually Kaylin killed him. That was one of the bodies he was burying earlier. So we know it.
It's fair.
Yeah, we never needed him anyway.
It's
you were
okay.
way better.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We've got a takeover coming after this. If you want to continue chatting, you can join us on Discord. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.